The following is a presentation of the IH Sports Network.
High school football is on the air. The Oneida Indians, the Scott Highlanders, with Tim Smith, Rick Keaton, and their entire broadcast teams. This is Tennessee's most complete high school football coverage.
Sponsored by Twin K, South Fork Physical Therapy, First National Bank, El Rey, Lumber King, Ray's Axe, Danny's Drugs, TNT Car Wash, Tommy's Motorsports, and Mountain People's Health Councils.
Produced by the IH Sports Network, Friday Night Football begins now.
Welcome to the Oneida High School 2024 season preview. I'm Tim Smith. I'll be your host, and we have the usual Indian gang with us. Kevin Akers is here, Mark Matthews, Bo Kidd, John L. Strunk, and tonight we're going to take a look at the Indians' upcoming schedule, which is just like last year's schedule. So we're going to talk about position groups and what to expect from the Oneida Indians, and later on tonight we're going to have a talk with Coach Jimmy May. So we're looking forward to bringing all this to you in a very relaxed atmosphere. Everybody's relaxed, ready to go, and we're just going to walk our way back through last season because the schedule is just exactly the same. The only difference, a year ago, Oneida had 6 home games. This year, Oneida has 6 road games. Last year's 4 games were the farthest trips the Indians could make, so they're not huge road trips, but this year there's just 4 home games on the Oneida schedule, and those don't start until the 3rd week of the season. So we'll get to those, but we'll start with where the Indians started a year ago, and that was at home, and they played the Rockwood Tigers. Rockwood and Coach John Webb. This year, Rockwood will be game number 935 of Oneida football. This season is the 90th season of Oneida football. The Indians have 595 wins coming in, so if they can get 5 wins this season, that 5th win would be win number 600 for the program. 324 losses, 12 ties. Oneida will travel to Rockwood. Again, a year ago, Oneida won 28-14 against the Tigers. The Indians first played Rockwood in 1969. Oneida won that game 14-7. This will be the 21st meeting between the two teams, and it will settle the lead. Each team has 10 wins in the series. This will be the 8th season in a row that Oneida has faced the Rockwood Tigers. Rockwood a year ago finished 3rd in their district. That may not sound great, but remember, in their district, they had the Coalfield Yellow Jackets and the Oliver Springs Bobcats, and those were 2 very troublesome teams in 2023, and they are likely going to be troublesome teams again in 2024. So Rockwood not too bad with a 3rd place finish in their district. They did get a win in the playoffs, but they exited in the 2nd round of the playoffs to those Coalfield Yellow Jackets. So Rockwood finished with a 6-6 record a year ago. And just a reminder, that was the first game of the season. Rockwood came in. And Kevin, what are your memories about the Rockwood Tigers and Coach John Webb?
Well, if you remember coming into that game the year before that, Rockwood made it all the way to the state semifinals. So we anticipated this was going to be a very tough, tight game for the Indians. And then ended up, we actually went ahead way more than what the final score was. I think they scored late.
They did.
And the biggest thing I remember out of that game was our passing attack. Looking back at our stats, we had 278 yards through the air, was 8 of 14 passing, 3 touchdowns, and I think that really set them back. They wasn't expecting that, especially from an Oneida team. Well, we're traditionally a run team, and then to rack up 278 yards through the air, I think that completely caught them off guard. We only had the ball 19 minutes in that entire football game. So it was quick strike and went down and scored on them often. Of course, 4 touchdowns and just completely dominated that football game.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Indians' passing game great in that game against Rockwood. Rockwood's passing game, pitiful. It was 4 of 13 through the air. They had 14 yards, 3 interceptions. They fumbled twice, 5 turnovers for the Rockwood Tigers. Mark, it's hard to win a game when you turn it over 5 times.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And we wasn't real sure of what to expect in that first ball game. We know they're defensively sound, really good football to always have been. Coach John Webb's teams have always been really sound defensively. But going into that game, I believe Kevin was right, kind of overwhelmed them a little bit. They wasn't ready for this non-traditional Oneida team to play that way. You know, we come out and pound just like they do, and very similar football teams. But we came out and put the ball in the air and come up with some big plays, man, and just got after them from the get-go. And I think we scored all 4 of our touchdowns in the first half.
We did. It was 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. And if you remember, there in the second quarter, it was 3 quick, really quick scoring drives for Oneida. One of them was an 85-yard touchdown pass to Jesse Zachary out of the backfield, off the little waggle out of the backfield. Then Caden found Lindbergh as well for one, and then found Levi for another in the third quarter. The first quarter touchdown was actually a 40-yard run by Caden Rector. So we were up 28-0 at the half, and then it was almost, all right, the offense may have stalled out a little bit in the second half, but we were able to hold defensively. We were pretty strong throughout the entire game.
And they did had a lot of adjustments at halftime. Coach John Webb, great football coach down there. It's always tough when you face him, but they adjusted to some things, John, in that second half, didn't they?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about it on the air at that time because we're up 28-0, but we really couldn't find traction in the offensive game, you know, and were we just playing with the lead and not trying to make any mistakes first game of the season, or was it just that Rockwood had made some good adjustments? It was kind of one of those wait and see kind of things, but we never did put the ball in the end zone again in the second half, and it ended up they got 2 scores, and it turns out 28-14.
What you're talking about statistically, Oneida couldn't run against Rockwood last year. It was 1.6 yards a carry. So you got that big lead, but you couldn't salt it away with a ground game. It was kind of a theme that emerged for the Indians last year, struggling to find that ground game. But going to Rockwood is much different than hosting Rockwood.
It's going to be. I mean, and it's we've already hit on it. They're tough-nosed. They're going to play for their coach. That's his style. It's sort of like Oneida style, or with the Oneida that you want to be. You want to see hard-nosed football, point of attack kind of play, set the tone. Yeah, it should be a very interesting start to the season for both squads. I think both squads need something from this week 1.
And if you remember 2 years ago when we went down there, I believe 21 points were scored in about the first 60 seconds of that ball game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is right.
And you can go back and watch the video. It was a heartbreaking ball game.
It was.
You know, the Indians losing to Rockwood down there. I think if you're Coach John Webb, a positive from last year, they were 2 for 2 in the red zone. You know, they did seem to settle into what they're doing. The one thing about playing Rockwood first is you're going to get the worst Rockwood team that exists in 2024 because Coach John Webb and his team always get better.
Absolutely.
Can we go ahead and put the elephant on the table, or knock him off and talk about it for Oneida and for Rockwood? Quarterback play. Oneida's going to have to replace a 3-year starter at quarterback. And you look at the stats, he accounted for 77% of their offensive production last year at that quarterback with his arms and his legs. That's a lot of production. I know offenses today go through the quarterback, and a lot of teams do it this way at all levels of play, even in college and pro. But man, we relied on that cat last year in Rector, and we're going to have to replace that. In Rockwood, we're hearing that they're going to start a freshman.
Last I heard, they're going to be starting the 8th grader from last year's state title team, maybe the starter this year.
Oh, wow.
So
He was good.
He was.
That said, home field will play to the advantage of Rockwood. You know, first start maybe for both teams, maybe at quarterback. So home field's going to be big.
All right, that's the Rockwood Tigers a year ago. It was a win for the Indians. Oneida started off 1-0, and then they hosted the Coalfield Yellow Jackets. So Coalfield, they were their district champs a year ago. This year, Coalfield's game number 936. It's week 2. We're going down to Coalfield for that one. These two teams first played in 1932. No team has played Oneida more times than Oneida has played Coalfield. The Indians won in 1932, 57-0. You remember that, Kevin. The longest winning streak in the series. Oneida won 9 straight from 1981 to 1989. The Indians had a 36-10 advantage. 36 wins, 10 losses after 1989. But in the 34 meetings since then, Oneida has 15 wins and 18 losses. They have one no contest loss in 2020. In the last 5 meetings, Oneida has only scored more than a touchdown once against the Yellow Jackets. So it's defense, it's offense. That was in 2019. The Indians got 14 points in that game. This will be the 80th meeting between the Yellow Jackets and the Indians, and that makes them the most played team. Sunbright's second, by the way, in that, and that's a full 60 contests, full 20 contests difference. Oneida has 51 wins in the series, still 51 wins to Coalfield's 28 wins, and Oneida's last win, though, was in 2018, so time is separating that. It was a 7-3 final. Last year, Coalfield finished 9-1. They won their region, and in the state quarterfinals, the team they beat for their region was the Oliver Springs Bobcats, and Oliver Springs came up with a big upset in the quarterfinals. Oliver Springs goes on to the semis, and Coalfield ends the season with a bad taste in their mouth. Oliver Springs goes on to lose to South Pittsburgh, who was the eventual state champion. So, the Coalfield Yellow Jackets. And Mark and I talked about this earlier, and Mark, you lead off on this, but Jason Wilson came along around 2001, I believe, in Coalfield, calling the plays. He hasn't been the head coach, but he's been the offensive coordinator down there, and that guy can call a game.
Boy, Kenny, you're looking at from 2004. You say, you know, all the head coaches that has been there has had Jason Wilson as their offensive coordinator, and they've always been able to score a bunch of points. They scored 33 on us last year. It's 33-0. We couldn't get anything going offensively, turning the football over, dropping passes, just not blocking people. We just didn't have a very good ball game against Coalfield. What I did see out of this Oneida team, or last year's Oneida team, defensively, we didn't play real bad against Coalfield, I didn't think. I don't know how you all felt about it. They scored 33 points, I understand that, but we kept them in check. No big plays. They just kind of wore us out down the field in small chunks, it seemed like to me, and we wasn't. I didn't have an answer for it on offense, didn't have an answer. He always got the ball where there wasn't an Oneida defender.
Yeah. Four turnovers, you talked about that.
Yeah.
Longest play of the game for Coalfield was 29 yards. That was their longest play of the game. But it was the fact that Luke Treese at quarterback was able to he was methodical. He was 24-36 for the game, 230 yards through the air. We held him to 100 yards of actually held him to 75 yards of rushing in the game. So run defense, we were fine. It just seemed like they were able to get underneath us all night in the secondary. In the secondary, the slant route ended up always being there. The quick hitch was right there. They were able to get yards after the catch a little bit. Yeah. That was the hard part about it, was that they were just chipping away.
And you know, how many times does Coalfield score on 4th down in the last 5 years against?
2 years ago down there, they did it twice against us. Big long passes.
I mean, I say that to say, to your point, their offensive coordinator always seems to have the right play on. We're kind of playing on our heels a little bit, to their credit. And they've done it with great success over the last few years. And then on the flip side, and Bo may have hit on it a little bit, you know, offensively for Oneida, just no traction. And it's like they probably saw the game film from Rockwood the week before, because they locked down and Rector was not, you know, we just didn't have 88 yards passing, maybe 1 yard rushing, if I remember. Yeah. I mean, 1 yard rushing in the whole game.
That was going to kind of tell the tale for the rest of the season.
We were under 100 yards for the game.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, so brutal offensively against and to Coalfield's credit, they had a game plan. They implemented it, and they just had us off balance all night last year and the last couple of years.
We only had 4 first downs that entire game. Average 1 first down a quarter. And after coming off of Rockwood, as well as we did against that, I think we went into that game, that's just my opinion, thinking, all right, we're going to really play good with these guys. We ain't beat them in like 4 years. And then when they just started working their way on it, it just kind of mentally, I think, it starts setting in. When you haven't beaten the team since 2018, it starts working on you early. If you get behind, and here we go again. So
sometimes it's tough to overcome that mental.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said, overcoming 4 turnovers to none. That's tough. One of the things that they look at all levels right now, whether it's NFL or college, is the number of plays you run. Coalfield ran 68 plays, Oneida ran 23. And that's just one of the keys that people look at.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough trip down there to play the Yellow Jackets. I have heard that they had a good scrimmage against the Kingston Yellow Jackets, and that they're just reloading and ready to go. So that's Coalfield. That's game 2. Oneida was 1-1 after game 2 last year, and then they had their first region game and their first ever matchup with a region foe by the name of Eagleton College and Career Academy. We have a few highlights of that one, but in that game, Oneida got the win. Eagleton had gotten blown out in week 1 against Tellico Plains. Absolutely, they were just slaughtered in week 1 against Tellico Plains. Scott High did the same thing to them in week 2. Oneida goes to Eagleton. It's their first ever home game, and then the game unfolds this way. The Indians come up with a 14-3 victory, and you'll see highlights from this Oneida-Eagleton game rolling here as Eagleton was fired up. They're at home, their first home game. Indians get on the board first. This is Jesse Zachary taking it in on a big run. So that the concern about the rushing in the first 2 games, obviously Oneida was trying to dispel that a little bit. Eagleton, remember, they had no seniors on this team. So everybody you see wearing the blue and white there for Eagleton, they're all back. And they had a pretty good little quarterback. They're all coming back, and they're adding to it as well. I've heard there's some transfers coming in, and Oneida won a hard-fought game there. The Royals actually qualified for the playoffs in that first year. So they came all the way from this early season 0-3 to get wins over Tellico Plains and Wartburg, and they made the playoffs in their initial year of varsity football, and they ran into the York Dragons in that opening round and lost 61-7. So I don't know what your expectations are of Eagleton, but we'll start with Bo.
Well, all I know is I remember last year being down 3-0 at the end of the first quarter and thinking, what buzzsaw have we run into for a first home game? And then I believe our first touchdown that we scored in that ball game was on a 4th and 2 that we handed off to Jesse, and he broke it off to the left side and took it about 60 yards for the score. Our other score of that ball game, if you remember in the second quarter, was actually on a little wheel route out of the backfield that they found Xander, and I believe that was on a 3rd and long at that point in that ball game. We had to find ways to get behind them defensively. And we were able to do that, especially whenever Jesse got that run. They were trying to pack the box. They thought we were going inside, trying to get the 2 yards and continue the drive. He was able to bounce it out and was able to break. Same thing on that 3rd down. They thought we were going to go something, try to just manage to get into some field goal range, try to get some points out of it, and they left Xander wide open to the outside, if I believe. So that was the big key to that ball game, was we were able to come up on some defensive errors on their part to come away with that 14-3 win.
And we struggled a little bit running the football again. They had 2 really good linemen, if I remember
they got
right.
2.
55 was one of them. I just seen a play that he was in. But that we had struggled.
I would go stalemate based on the stats instead of struggle, because we ran for 3.9 yards a carry. They were 3.7. So both of us were able to move it on the ground about equally. But their passing game was not what ours was.
We was able to come up with a couple of big plays. That was the difference in the game. Our defense was stifling against them.
Very reminiscent of the first game of the year, Rockwood, where we put all our points. We scored that second touchdown, I think, with 2 or 3 seconds to go before half. And that was all the scoring was in before half, and we just held on. So very reminiscent of kind of Rockwood, and they had some drives, but our defense was able to hold them back.
And coming into the game, it's been 6 quarters since we scored a point.
Yes,
so that's tough. You've got to get some of that excitement back in your offense and get some momentum going. And that's tough to overcome sometimes.
And if you remember, 2 of our drives,
7 quarters. We didn't score the second quarter.
Yeah, we scored second quarter. Yeah.
Right.
So if you remember, also 2 of our offensive drives in that game were continued because of big plays made by Landon Lindbergh. There was a diving catch that he made for a first down, and then also he went and head topped a kid, went over top of him, was able to grab it and bring it back in for a first down. If not for those 2 plays, we may not be in those scoring positions.
You're right.
Kevin, this school is a young school, and so they lost to us in football here. But this is the same school that ended our boys basketball season.
That's right.
As they progressed, these programs progressed along, and as the year went along, they got a lot of success and they got some swagger.
Yeah.
And I feel like, Kevin, they're going to be coming in this year pretty confident.
Yeah, and as Mark said, everybody's back. You said that. Yeah, everybody is back.
I'll take credit.
And okay, and I'll be honest with you, their team I'm worried about this year. They're going to be tough, and they're going to remember that very first loss that they ever had at home is against Oneida, and they will be coming up here to pay us back.
Hey.
They got a pretty good head coach over there too,
I
don't they?
think Tim hit on it. They clawed their way into a playoff spot. Well, there's going to be 5 or 6 teams clawing for playoff spots in this region this year, and Oneida's going to be one of them. Let's put it out there.
Yeah.
And
All
so,
the excitement of that game for that team in Eagleton, first ever game at that field. Now, how big was? I mean, now, not taking anything away from them, but now they was up. They was up probably for that game more than they was all season.
And they got I think Coach made mention of a couple players, if I remember correctly, at pregame that was their first game of the season. They had a couple players that actually stepped on the field.
55.
That was
and
Tyson
he was
Quick,
making plays all night long.
Sure is.
And so they progressed from that point on in their season.
Yeah.
All right, position look now here in this segment. Bo, help us out with this. Offensive line, defensive line, tight ends. Indians, last year, we talked about it. The line struggled to get the run game going. Did a pretty good job of protecting Caden. It looked like Caden very mobile, though. If something breaks down, Caden was able to tuck it and go. What do you feel like the offensive line, defensive line, and the tight ends are going to look like for us this year?
Well, take a look at the offensive line first off. Everybody back except for one starter, and that was Will King. He's a graduate now. But everybody that is on that starting line right now all got plenty of playing time last year. You're looking at Cam Cash, Brady Burke, Jackson Cross is out there. You've also got
Will Jeffers.
Will Jeffers is going to be out there. Evan Cotton is going to be out there. And then you're going to see a few new faces coming in as well, too. Cade Chambers really working his way into getting some time. Colton Searcy also working to place. Look at a freshman, Brylan Strunk. That's another young man who has had a great fall thus far. Offensive line, we have more depth than we've had in a while, in my opinion. But the big key is making sure that we are protecting as well, because now you talk about Caden being in the backfield. You've got 2 quarterbacks right now in Brock Ryan and Gabe Brennan. Neither one of them may be as mobile as Caden was, so you need to make sure that you give them that extra second or two of protection, if at all possible, offensively.
And how you do that is be able to run the dang football.
Yes.
Coach May, I talked to Coach May a couple of weeks ago, and I said, okay, spread it out, throwing it 50 times a game. And he said, no. When you've got an offensive line, we've got 4 starters back. And when you have an offensive line like we've got coming back, you're wanting to establish the run. And absolutely, you've got Brady Burke is a 300-pound right tackle. The kid on the other side
Cam
is
Cash.
Cam, is he playing tackle?
As of right
Jackson
now,
Cross.
Jackson's in
He's a big kid. Right, yeah, okay. Great big kid right there. Cam Cash is probably the all-around best offensive defensive lineman that I've seen at Oneida in a while. He does a great job. You also have to take into account the Sexton kid that was a freshman. Eli Jordan. He got player of the game twice last year. And Eli Jordan, man, that was something special for me, seeing this kid really come on and play the way he did. Man, he didn't have no fear. He got in there and got after it.
That feels like you're flipping the defensive line now.
I'm sorry, I just had to throw. But he's going to probably see some time on the offensive line. That's what I was going
and
for.
you can't be deep enough on the defense and offensive line.
No.
You just can't. But nothing nothing's more valuable than experience. And, when we've got some of that coming back,
Absolutely.
that's great.
A bunch of it.
And then
Yep.
defensively, you're going to look at the same thing. Up front, in the middle, of defensive tackle, you're going to see Cam Cash. You're going to see Brady Burke definitely up there in the gut. On the outside, Jesse Zachary off one end, Will Jeffers off the other end right now. Aiden Frazier still a little hampered with an injury right now. Haven't seen him much. Haven't seen him this fall play in any scrimmages yet.
Leading sack guy last year.
So that is absolutely high motor. So you hope to see him, as the year progresses. Hopefully he gets back out there and is able to provide some depth for that defensive line. Now you're still going to see a lot of guys that we've already talked about. They're going to be getting reps in there as well. No questions about it. So defensively. Deep, yes. Can we get some plays off for a guy here and there? Get him a breath or two? Absolutely, no questions asked. But those starting four, they're going to be leaned on hard, in my opinion.
As they should.
Real quick on the tight ends, though, Jesse Zachary, Aiden Frazier had some big moves last year. Oneida utilizing the tight end a little more than what we've seen in the past, Kevin.
Yeah, and that's key, especially like on your little short dump passes and things like we got like that. That opens us up a lot more. If you have a little problem running the ball, that'll kind of relieve some of that a little bit. Make your tight ends your linebackers kind of have to watch that and keep an eye on that and kind of open up your running game a little bit off of that. But yeah, it's then when you need a little bit more blocking around the ends and stuff, tight ends are always one of the unsung heroes of a football team, I think.
You got to get Zachary the ball from time to time, don't you? I mean, he's a freak athlete. I mean, this kid can move. He's got size.
What a mismatch he is.
He is. He provides an
linebacker.
absolute mismatch.
If he's not in the backfield, gentlemen, that's going to be the key. Jesse Zachary, probably going to see him more in the backfield than you are at tight end this year.
Well, and
why not?
Because you're going to see
target,
more of the
right?
Aiden on the outside. Then remember, you've also got Ben Gilbert. It's going to line up out there at tight end, wing back as well. You've also got Drayton Wade. This is a new cat, played basketball. We've seen him numerous times. He's out playing tight end. Kid has great hands. He has absolutely great hands. So if you can get him the ball into some open field, watch out. This young man's got a pretty good motor himself.
All right. That's 3 games, 1, 2, 3. So a year ago, Oneida was 2-1 coming out of those 3 games, had a region win. And we're getting ready to head into the next section of the schedule. At that point, we want to head into 2024, and we want to give a shout out to our sponsors who are along the way here. And there are some names you'll remember and some names that are returning that weren't with us a year ago. So somebody that was with us was Baby J's Pizza pregame. It's been that way since the onset for us at the IHSN, the Baby J's Pizza pregame report. We have something new this year from the Stand program. Their commercial is one of the most popular with our crew, I know, and toxic metals and all that. We heard that. But the Stand program is going to bring you a Scholar Athlete of the Week selected by the school. So that's a new feature this year. Helmwood Foods Out-of-Town Scoreboard returns again this year, as does the Roarks Pharmacy Scouting Report. And you recognize our surroundings here as the usual place for the IHSN Roundtable. And this year on the Roundtable, the Coach's Corner is going to be brought to you by, the weekly recap is going to be brought to you by Little's Drugs. So Little's Drugs, just right down here on 63 and where 63 and 27 connect. It's a great place to go for lunch. It's a great bunch of people. And so Little's Drugs is bringing you the weekly recap segment of the Roundtable. That's a few of our sponsors. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back with the next trio of games coming up in 2024 and a look back. Wartburg is next.
When your job requires concrete, call Twin K Enterprises. We take pride in both residential and commercial projects. Our concrete is state certified and lab tested with proven high strength mixed results. We have certified facility operators and mix design technicians to be sure our customers get the best mix the first time, every time. Twin K has 6 concrete plants to serve the entire Highway 27 corridor from Georgia to Kentucky. Twin K, call 569-6341.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you to those who have supported South Fork Physical Therapy for the past 20 years. Because of you, we have been able to live and work in the community we love. We appreciate you, Scott County.
El Rey is Scott County's home for great Mexican flavor. Located in Oneida Plaza, we're just up the sidewalk from Walmart. From our fresh chips that are made daily to our chicken or beef fajitas that are big enough to share, El Rey uses the freshest ingredients to serve authentic Mexican dishes that will be a hit with the entire family. Stop in before the game on Friday or pop in on Saturday and watch college football on one of nearly a dozen screens while you eat. That's El Rey Azteca, open until 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 10 p.m. on weekends.
Home-style cooking with friendly service in a relaxed atmosphere. That's Razax. Razax offers breakfast served daily, just like Grandma fixed it, and daily specials like country fried steak, turkey and dressing, and of course, a fish fry every Friday. Razax has a full menu, ranging from quick and easy favorites like hamburgers and club sandwiches to comfort foods like pinto beans. And you'll love something off the grill, like grade A cut sirloin, ribeye, or shrimp kebabs. Razax. Country cooking and great steaks.
Welcome back to the Oneida 2024 season preview. We're moving on. Game number 938. It's going to come in week 4, and it's Oneida at Wartburg. Last year, Wartburg finished 3-7 and just out of the playoffs in our region. This will be the 59th meeting all-time between the Indians and the Bulldogs. Oneida has won 44 of those 59 meetings against Wartburg. The last loss to Wartburg for the Indians came in 2010. Oneida won 33-18 last year, and this will be Oneida's second region game in 2023. There are 5 region teams. 4 will qualify for the TSSAA playoffs. Actually, it's the first region game.
Yes.
I was mistaken Eagleton there. Oneida's won 11 straight against Wartburg. John L., will they make it 12?
Yeah, you got to hope so. I mean, this is one that you circle because it's so very important from a regional standpoint. You want to get this win if you're Oneida or Wartburg. And last year we ran into a buzzsaw early. Wartburg came in very prepared. Oneida played from behind, got down a couple of scores. The PAT on the first one was not good, so they went for 2 on the second one. Was trying to put us down 14-0. That was stifled. And Oneida scored right at the end of the half and put themselves in contention. And then from there on, we outscored them. We put 33 on the board in a row.
Scored with Gabe Brennan because Caden Rector had gone out with injury.
And he played superb. Come in there usually coming off the bench cold and in a tight situation, that's a tough spot, but he came in and played very well for Oneida and established some things for Oneida, really. Settled us in, settled us down. And like I said, Oneida goes on to score 33 unanswered into the fourth quarter, and what was a 12-0 deficit for Oneida ended up 33-12 at that point, ends up 33-18 in the final. So Oneida gets that regional win, which is very important, that all-important first regional win.
On that home field, Xander Lau had a big night as a freshman. He had 71 yards, touchdown that night, Kevin. And we saw some more flashes of the running game having some success. It was like one game, it was not great, and then it was pretty good, and then it was not as good, and then it was a nice night against Wartburg on the ground.
Well, Wartburg always gets up for Oneida every year, and it's kind of maybe a little off subject, but we got a little insight to that last year during basketball. If you remember,
Yes.
When we walked in the gym, they have their weight room right there as we walk into the gym. Now, you think their big chief rivals they've got would be like Cofield and some of those teams down there? No. On their gym wall was a picture of Oneida's football team with a big line through it.
In the weight room.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, they get up for us every year, and that good example of that was last year. They had us down, and we was able to come back and get the win, and I'm sure it'll be the same thing this year. We're down there again this year, so.
We've been down there and been in trouble before, haven't we?
Yeah, just a couple of years ago. It was, 7-0 was the final or something like that?
Yeah. I remember this game being very balanced. I think we were almost perfectly even in this one.
We were. Look at your stats.
Yeah, buck 75 both ways. But the one drive that I continue to remember was the one right there before the end of the first half. Gabe comes in after Caden goes out, gets hurt. Gabe goes a perfect 6 of 6 through the air and gets us into the end zone there to cut that lead down right before the half. That was a huge, huge drive for that young man's morale for the rest of the season. No question about it. And I think that it was a big morale booster for the team in general. They knew that they had somebody that could come in there. If Caden goes out, we've still got somebody who can come in here and lead this team. No questions asked. And I think that was a big, big key to this team last year.
So Oneida moves to 3-1. They're trying to string some wins together, but you're heading to Polk County for the first ever meeting, and we may have some highlights on this one as well. Polk County, one of those games that, to me, if you're not a fan, that was a fun game to watch. If you're a fan of either one of those teams, it was just a torturous situation. For an Oneida fan, it felt like Polk County had the football the whole time, you know, and you're just struggling, Mark, against that team. But it's one of the great comebacks that the Indians had probably in recent memory, and you're seeing some highlights from it here, a lot of it through the air. What do you remember about that visit with Polk County?
Being down 14 there in the last, or 10, being down 10 in the last 3 minutes of the ball game. What a, you know, and we was all thinking at the time, golly, there's no way we can come back from this. But two big explosive plays, man, and we've got the victory there, 21-17. And I just remember going into Polk County, you really didn't know what to expect. Those guys do a great job there. Big, physical. I'm talking probably the most physical football team we played. And they came out and just right down the field.
You get that comeback. You know, there was that touchdown to go ahead, but and it looked like, well, they're done for, but Polk County wasn't done for.
I think Josh Cole had a big play in that ball game.
He did.
The tip behind
right.
Yep.
Lindbergh had a big play or two in that ball game. A lot of people stepped up in that game, but Polk County was a tough victory.
Sometimes you steal one, don't you?
Yeah, you do, and we did.
I think we stole one.
They should have arrested us.
Yeah,
because we got
the big number 44 kid. He kind of got dinged up at the very end. I would have rode that boy to.
And that's what they did. Pretty much, he got hurt.
He got dinged up.
Didn't play a whole lot in the second half.
But they kind of got cute in some things that they did, in my opinion.
Yep.
But they outrushed us by 150 or something, and just had us on our heels. But our quarterback and those receivers made some plays in the end and gave us some opportunity, and the coaches called some great plays, and we stole one on the road.
The defense.
Ben Gilbert, Braden Birchfield, 37 combined tackles in that game.
Ben Gilbert.
Couple huge sacks.
Well, in the first half, they couldn't block him.
No.
Absolutely couldn't block him, could they, Kevin?
I think he had 12 tackles in the first half.
You don't remember? No, you was on the camera.
Yeah, I think he had 12 tackles in the first half of that ball game. And if you remember another big play there at the end, they were still driving to possibly take the lead right at the end of the game.
Yes, they was. Stop them on fourth down.
Aiden Frazier with a huge sack to end the ball game.
Yes.
All that said, you think they forgot?
Absolutely.
Oh, no. I mean, and that was the difference in third and fourth place in our region.
It was.
Think they have forgotten. All that said. But they, you know,
they're going to
bring that attitude to Oneida.
Oh,
no doubt about it.
Sir.
Should be a fun time.
It should be. Good people in Polk County. Looking really forward to that one.
All right, Polk County did make the playoffs. They finished fourth in the region a year ago. So that was the Polk County. Remember what they are?
Offhand, I cannot.
They are the Wildcats. The Polk County Wildcats. Yeah.
Mark came to me.
Yep, there you go. That was game number 5. Oneida now 4-1. So it looks like just that blip against Coalfield, and we're going to move on. So now the Indians have the Greenback Cherokees coming into town. Another long-time series between these two teams. This year's going to be the 43rd meeting of Oneida and Greenback. Cherokees finished 5-7 a year ago. They struggled at times, but they made the playoffs. And the Indians have actually lost 10 of the last 14 matchups with the Greenback Cherokees. 2 of those were in the playoffs. So the Cherokees have the more impressive look in recent times. Do want to mention Cherokees had a change at head coach. So they've got a new head coach this year. And also a gentleman that interviewed with us when we went went for that game. His name was Ira Massey. He was with the Greenback. They were at greenbackfootball.com. They did the broadcast, and Ira Massey passed away tragically earlier this year. He was such a good guy. If you get a chance to go back and watch the Greenback game, he was a transplant into Greenback and just came in and developed a love for that team and broadcast their games and
knew the history.
Absolutely, he loved the Cherokees, and we lost him this year, and we just wanted to mention him. And Ira Massey again was his name. He's just Mr. Greenback Cherokee announcer for sure, from what we remember. But this will be game number 940 all time for Oneida and Greenback. Kevin, what about this?
Yeah, this was a game. Usually you can throw the records out whenever they meet. It's one of the best rivalries Oneida has. I think right behind Coalfield, you've got Greenback, and as you said, we met each other in the playoffs many times. I can go back, remember several years ago when we met each other in the last game of the season. They were both 9-0. We get there 2 hours before the game, the stands are already full. And it's that kind of rivalry. And figured it was going to be the same thing when they come up to Oneida last year, but the Indians just absolutely dominated that game. And the score was 29-8, but I think it was a lot more one-sided than that. What was our total yardage? Was 285 to 145. But yeah, the Indians just, once again, it was one of those games where it's like, all right, you had the game with the Coalfield and we just couldn't get any traction, but then you had the game against Rockwood that we just took off and dominated and did that, and that was kind of the same thing we saw here. We saw that Oneida team, and they just completely handled Greenback and just took them out of the game.
All right, the position group we're going to look at here, Bo's got some stats and stuff, but I know you guys kind of know these by heart, and I'm going to let John L. be the offensive guy here. Running backs, John L., what are you looking forward to in 2024 for the running backs for Oneida?
I think you're looking to establish, at running back especially. We've already talked about the offensive line and what we got coming back. Well, get him behind those big guys, those guys too gritty to be pretty and just make hay all day. That's what Coach May, that's what anybody wants to do, right? Will it happen? Because we know the schedule we got in front of us, we know the teams we got to play, and we got our running backs coming back, and they're probably going to move some guys. We've already talked about it. Maybe move some guys around to find the best fit back there. But you want to see some production to take off those young quarterbacks. First-time starter, whoever that may be in game one or right through the season, they need the running back position to be productive. And it's going to be by committee probably. It has been the last few years.
Oh, yeah. There's Xander. There's Jesse Zachary. And then there's Caleb Reagan.
Don't forget Cole Meredith.
Cole Meredith.
I mean, you got a slew of running backs.
And what you got, we didn't see Cole Meredith with the starters just a great deal last year. But when he would come in, there was flashes.
Absolutely.
You've seen that. And Xander Lau, just a freshman. I mean, and he got dinged up, I believe.
Yeah, a little bit.
But you've seen the explosiveness of Xander Lau throughout the year. And he really made his mark more on defense this past year than he did on offense. But you could see that spark that you've seen in middle school from Xander Lau.
So linebackers, I mean, the big splash last year, the big revelation I think for everybody was Ben Gilbert at linebacker. What about the linebackers?
Ben, Braden Birchfield also coming back. That's your two key guys right there in the middle. You're going to see Xander step up in there as well, be a linebacker here and there. Played a lot last year. I mean, he may be more of a rover this year than anything, but you've got two guys right there in Ben and Braden that have really taken control of this defense, especially in the linebacking core. These are two guys that are ready to go out and be leaders on the defense, no questions asked. And
all four's back.
All of them's back.
Yeah,
all of them's back. I mean, this may be the most proficient group that we've had in linebackers in a while.
Well, and I was thinking about that very thing today, and you all may not agree with this, but I remember big play linebacker, and it puts me in the mind of Dan King and Coley Phillips, of how one of them was a big explosive guy, and the other one was just the guy that goes down and does the work and gets the tackles, and that.
You went a little bit earlier than me. I'm thinking of a little bit more around my time whenever you had Chris Honeycutt and Adam Douglas in the same situation. Another two tandem.
Yeah.
Another good tandem.
But those guys made big plays.
Yeah.
And all that talent at linebacker. I mean, this Braden Birchfield come from where?
Yeah.
You know? And what an impact he had on our defense last year.
Well, and last year, those guys were making plays because, and I know we're going to get there, and we've already talked about the guys in front of them were doing their job.
Yeah.
You know, those linebackers were cleaning it up because the guys in front of them were taking on multiple helmets and keeping it clean for the linebackers to play clean. And so it was a great effort. But those linebackers, man, they're special.
Yes, they are.
And Birchfield doesn't get, I know we talk about Gilbert a lot, but Birchfield, he's right there with him.
Yeah, he's the Coley Phillips of that defense.
He is so sound. If you watch tape and watch what he does, he's always where he needs to be.
100 plus tackles last year, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we'll be talking about Coley Phillips some this year because it's 30 years ago was that great 94 team of Oneida. So each game we're going to take a look back to 1994, one of the greatest teams of all time for Oneida sports, a team that moved up to 2A and ran the table in the regular season. The 94 team we're going to give some pub to later on all through this year. Also, want to give thanks to some of the sponsors we have for this year. Returning, Danny King Lumber is going to bring your post-game show. McDonald's of Oneida is doing the starting lineups. Trophy Masters, once again, will bring you a lineman of the game. We'll have the Vantage Point Financial Halftime Report and something new this year. We're not sure exactly what it's going to look like, but we'll figure it out in a week and a half. The town of Oneida for Oneida games, the town of Huntsville for Scott High games is going to bring you a fan of the game. What will that entail? I'm sure you're going to have a lot of spirit. Going to have to make yourself evident. Maybe it's at Oneida they're going to scour the pregame. What's the word I'm looking for, Mark?
Pre-game.
Or people set up tailgate. Pre-game tailgate to pick a fan of the game or whatever. But that is new for 2024. It's coming this year. So we'll be back and look at the final 4 games of the regular season in 2024. It's the Oneida season preview. More right after this.
Thank you, First National Bank.
At First National Bank, we bleed orange and red. That's because we're a local bank, and we're proud to support our community's teams. But we do more than just root on the Indians and the Highlanders on game nights. We're honored to sponsor all our community schools and their athletic programs. First National Bank. Since 1904, we're deeply rooted in Scott County.
Thank you, First National Bank.
At Mountain People's Health Councils, our culture is caring and accountability. We care about our patients and we want to do everything we can to help them when they need it the most. Our mission is to provide health care access to everyone in need, regardless of their ability to pay. Mountain People's is recognized as one of the top performing health centers in the country for patient outcomes. Mountain People's has clinics in Oneida, Huntsville, Elgin, Norma, and Winfield. Call 286-4141 to schedule an appointment.
If you vape, you could be inhaling toxic metals into your lungs. To show how scary that is, we made Metal Monster. With special effects that show metal particles being inhaled. And music that would have made your heart race. But nothing is as scary as the facts. Vaping can deliver toxic metals like nickel and lead into your lungs. That's metal in your lungs.
Tail slate.
You may have heard of different types of loans or certain kinds of products or something, but that may not be what you need exactly. So we're going to have a conversation and figure out exactly what it is you're after and what you're looking to do. And then I will say, okay, here are our options, and here are the good things about this, and here are the things that you have to consider as well. You're making that decision with me. Once we kind of figure out what we're after, we're in this together, and I'm going to try to get you to the finish line and get your loan taken care of. But I want it to be the right loan for you, and it needs to fit what you really need.
Welcome back to Oneida 2024 season preview, and we accelerate now into the final 4 games of the season, and it will be our region champion from a year ago. Oneida hosted them, then they went to them in the playoffs. It's the York Dragons, a team that was just dominant defensively. Mark Winningham, the coordinator there, Derwin Wright, calling all the right plays. They had an outstanding quarterback in Miles Lefevue. This year it's going to be week 7, game number 941. York went all the way to the semifinals in the state and lost a nail-biter at home to East Robertson, 35-31. The Indians lost 4 games last year. 2 of them were to this York team. This will be the 42nd meeting between the 2 teams. Oneida has 22 wins to York's 20. This will be the 3rd region contest. Oneida first met York in 1939. 47-0 was the result in that one. Bo, York coming back this year. They won't have quarterback Miles Lefevue, but they will have Coach Wright, they'll have Coach Winningham, and they were an absolutely solid squad, the team to beat.
They definitely were. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, though, 4 seniors on that offensive line graduated last year. But I do remember Michael Wall.
And he wasn't a senior.
He wasn't a senior,
No.
and that man, he was a man. There's
Junior,
no question about it. He's coming back. I remember 2 big key stats, and we played them twice. Okay, so remember that. Together in the 2 games, 571 yards of offense for York in the 2 games. We managed 92. We managed 92 yards of offense in the 2 games. That's something we'll have to change this year if we plan on being successful against the Dragons of York. No questions asked.
All right, so that will be week 7, and that will be the York Dragons. Next up, we're all foggy on this one because Tellico Plains was where we went.
No pun intended.
And I don't know if Greg has any highlights for Tellico Plains. Just as a reminder, we were way up in the back of the end zone by the scoreboard, and some of these highlights you can see a little bit, but you can see that. That looks pretty good.
That was early.
But the fog rolled in, and we were way far away. Mark and John L. were sitting in the front of the van calling it from the screen. And Bo and I were looking out the side, and Lucas Laxton just battled those elements to bring the pictures in this one. It was a dominant early game for Oneida. It's going to be week 8 this year. Tellico Plains comes in here. The Bears finished 1-9. Their one win, they blew out Eagleton in the opening week and never could get it back together, but they had a lot of quarterback injury and trouble that they suffered throughout the year. Oneida's never lost to Tellico Plains, 5-0 against the Bears, and this is going to be interesting. We talked about looking back at 94. One of the most memorable matchups between these 2 teams was in the quarterfinals. Oneida played Tellico Plains in 1994, and it moved them to 13-0 and set up a game against Harriman. But as you see the weather deteriorate in these highlights, John L., Tellico Plains.
Yeah, and it was a game that Oneida was able to get the win at Tellico last year, 27-12. And the stats were very, very close. If you look at the stats across the board, Oneida only outgained them by about 20 yards in the overall game, and Oneida was able to establish itself early and actually early and often. So we were actually up 27-0 in the 3rd quarter and kind of a downhill slide from there, and they were able to hang on. And this is one of those games, if you're Oneida, you kind of circle it. It's sort of like Wartburg, those 2 games. If you can get them, you're going to position yourself really well in the region to make the playoffs. So these are 2 games that Oneida's, I think you gotta put an asterisk beside and the ones that you want to capture.
All right, Tellico Plains Bears, and that is week number 8. Week 9, this is not a region game. So, Kevin, it is the Kings Academy. Oneida will have played them, or they've played them 5 times. This will be the 6th meeting. The Indians lead the series 3-2. They got the win last year, 29-15. Kings Academy, you never know what you're going to get when they come to town, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. One year they'll just have a team that just dominates everybody. Next year, everybody beats up on them.
They were winless a year ago.
Yeah. So it's it'll be interesting to see how they regroup and how they come into this year. I guarantee they'll be improved. They usually are when they do that cycle. And it's kind of an interesting, fun place to go watch a football game. If you like going to the park and watching ball games, it's that kind of atmosphere. Everybody brings their lounge chairs and stuff and everything, but it's a great place. they're very, very disciplined football team. The whole school is that way, and you get that when you go over there, and it'll be a fun night.
Hopefully.
Yep.
All right. So
somebody.
Week 10 of the regular season, Oneida plays Bledsoe County. That is a region game. A year ago, Oneida went down to Bledsoe County, and Oneida had won 4 meetings against Bledsoe and never lost. But the Bledsoe County Warriors were ready, and they got a 28-0 win a year ago. They got second place in the region. They played that York team in the regular season the closest of anyone. Mm-hmm. I think it was 27-17, and I believe that was at York. So I'd say you've got a Warrior team, knowing York's maybe lost a step. I bet they're sharpening their swords and ready for battle.
Yeah, and they had a kid last year that was just head and shoulders pretty much above everybody else. The tailback that Austin Raines, he was the real deal. And I'm just looking back at some stats, and we had 6 yards rushing in that ball game. Mm-hmm. Had a total of 84 yards for the game. What a dominant team. And playoff seeding was still on the line in this ball game. So we could have finished up there in second place if we would have beat Bledsoe, but it wasn't meant to be 28-0. We couldn't get our offense going. I felt like our defense gave up almost 400 yards, and that don't spell real good going into the playoffs. But we was able to overcome some of that and go in that first round and get a victory there on the road at Happy Valley, and so.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that the game that we took our opening drive and went down and almost scored, and then it just fell apart?
Yes, and if you remember, I believe 9 or 10 penalties, very quick for us, and that's what spelled a lot of our demise in that ball game.
So the Indians were 7-3 at that point. They went the next week to Happy Valley to play the Warriors. Warriors had started off 0-3, won 7 in a row. Mm-hmm. We went into their place and got a first-round victory in the playoffs. Coach Jimmy May, then the following week, Oneida had to go to York, and York did what they did to most everybody. The Indians did score that night against the Dragons. That was the only time Oneida scored in a loss a year ago, was that night against the Dragons. But the Indians finished with an 8-4 record. Coach Jimmy May, he's 21-15 as a solo head coach. He's 3-3 in playoffs, and hoping to make another move at the playoffs this year. Let me tell you about our regular season sponsors that took what we call the Platinum Package. They're going to be here that have really been good to sponsor the kids, to sponsor the teams, and are going to be here with us through football and basketball. And those include El Rey, Danny's Drugs, Lumber King, TNT Car Wash, Tommy's Motorsports, First National Bank, Razax, South Fork Physical Therapy, and Twin K. All of these folks said, what's your maximum package? That's what we want. And they took it, and you'll see a lot and hear a lot from them as we go through this year. Taking a look at positions quickly as we can, I'm going to assign them to one person each. I'm going to go with receivers. Anybody want to volunteer to talk about our receivers?
John
I think it should be Mark, actually, because he knows one of them very, very well.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but receivers, the position, I would probably go. You're going from 1 to 10. 2.
Well, no, I'm just saying, talk about the
receivers. You just want to talk about the receivers. Oh, okay, I was reading.
No, we're going to do the ahead of us.
You said position group, preview, quarterback, special teams.
We'll hold your hand.
Our receivers.
Yeah, there we are.
We've got.
It had to come off the rails at some point.
It did. You knew it had to start with me. We've got a lot of depth coming back in our receiver position. You've got Levi James, which is going to be probably their leading receiver. If I was thinking, he probably could be their leading receiver this year. He's a senior coming back, and will do real well. You're going to have a great tight end play. You're going to have great receiver play, I believe, from the Indians.
Don't forget another new name out at wide receiver in Grady
Keaton.
Grady
Keaton.
Dude, don't forget about that big play threat.
So you're going to have Grady on one side and Levi on the other side. Big play could happen at any point.
Tanner Buttram, Willie and Whalen, Riley Gibson. I mean, we've got a plethora of wide receivers this year.
In other words, you shouldn't have gave me receivers. You should have gave me linemen.
Well, if you're looking for an apology,
I know.
I know. John L., defensive backs. So you played a lot of defensive back. We were strong back there in the secondary last year.
We were.
There's no
we
way
lost.
to stay that strong, is there?
We lost a little bit, didn't we?
Lost Lindbergh.
Yeah. So, but yes, and Josh Cole, two mainstays back there, made a lot of plays for the Oneida. But we're bringing folks back, and I think we played a lot of folks in situations last year. Had to. Now this a lot of teams we play like to chunk it around, and they got a lot of experience that way. So looking forward to the defensive back as far as that goes, and seeing some growth there. And you're going to have to rotate some of these young guys in, eventually, and get them some experience.
Quarterbacks, Bo, give us the latest. You were at the scrimmage on Friday night. Oneida's not settled into one quarterback that we know of yet. What's going on there?
I think it's still, and I think that's the same way today. I mean, I don't think there's a question about it. Going into the last week, we've got one more scrimmage coming up here on Friday at home against Whitley County. I think you're going to see both those cats back there getting snaps in again, no doubt about it. Gabe Brennan, Brock Ryan. You're going to see those two guys, both of them going.
Is there a scenario where both of them get the same playing time in a ball game?
We've seen that. I mean, we've seen it in the past. There's no doubt about it. That happened whenever I was
against it.
Well, but we saw that whenever even I was in high school. If you remember, we saw
Caden Richter started out rotating with Noah Buttram.
He did, and then you had, about like I said, whenever I was in high school, we had Zach Smith, Adam Cross, both going at the same time as well. These are two guys that they mesh with one another very well. There's no doubt about it. One may be a little bit more agile than the other one. One may have a little bit more of a better arm than the other one. One may make a decision a little bit quicker than the other one. So they work well off of one another, no doubt about it. I think they both can run the playbook, the same playbook, both of them, the entire way, no questions asked. The question is who's just going to have the hotter hand? And who do you go with off that first snap of 2024? I don't know who that's going to be just yet.
We're fixing to find out.
I start to say this may be a question for Coach, but
or it may be a question he doesn't want to talk about.
He probably ain't going to answer that.
Yeah.
But
he's probably going to make you wait till week one of that first snap.
But the obvious separation hasn't been made by either quarterback to take that spot, right? I mean, they've both been playing well from what I understand.
Coming out of last season, you would have thought that Gabe had the reins,
and
as well as he played. But Brock Ryan has coming off injury.
He was dinged up last year.
Right.
He was.
Really didn't get it.
Now we're going to play a game, put these guys on the record. But first, we've left one thing out, and I know Kevin loves special teams. A year ago, Justin Lynch, great job at kicking, and Ben Gilbert showed great promise at punting. Is that still our special teams? What do you think about that?
I'm looking forward to it, as you said. I think your special teams, especially at this level, it makes a huge difference, especially when you're considering the conversions and stuff. How many times you see games settled by 2 or 3 points, and it comes down to your conversions on touchdowns. If it's a close game, I think your special teams is what's going to make the difference. I'm looking extremely forward to seeing the kicking game this year.
All right, some of our sponsors that are returning are and some new ones. We got First National Bank. Of course, First National Bank's bringing you first downs. They're bringing you the player of the game. First National Bank has been there from the beginning, and we appreciate that from them. A couple of new folks stepping in, bringing you play of the game. The Scott Morgan Farmers Co-op will bring you the play of the game. And timeouts will be brought to you by Farm Bureau. Nick Price is the agency manager there, and they will be bringing you the timeouts. A couple of the sponsors that we just can't say enough about, though, that are returning once again, and you'll see them in the rotation, but also you're going to see Instant Replay this year is brought to you by South Fork Physical Therapy. We appreciate them. Anytime we go to a replay, you're going to see South Fork Physical Therapy. They are sponsoring the replay this year, and of course, just like last year, the scoreboard is sponsored by Twin K. That's why we call it the Twin K scoreboard. So now I'm going to move and bring a chart up, and we're just going to stay live. We're going to play a game, and there's not necessarily a winner to this game right now. At the end of the year, we may see
Can't put it right there.
who won. But right now, we're just going to ask, and this is how we're going to do this. We're not going to ask you to, who am I blocking? There, that's better. Okay, we're not going to ask you to guess Oneida's record. Okay, that would be putting you on the spot, especially with Coach May might be coming in here any minute. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. And Ben Garrett is picking the order in random order. So who has to pick? We're going to pick, first of all, who is the toughest game on this schedule. Ben, who has to decide this is the toughest game on the schedule?
I think Mark Matthews is going to go.
All right, Mark Matthews.
See there? Get the important ones out of the way.
There's some good opportunities to choose from here. Who do you think's the toughest team on this schedule?
Cofield.
So are you saying
I'm talking
that
about
Cofield
this
would?
year. I'm talking about. I'm not going by last year.
Let me peek around here. Are you saying Cofield would beat any team on this schedule?
What I'm saying is that Cofield beats any team on this schedule outside of Oneida. Oh, 91. He just threw it out there. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. They go 9-1 on the season.
Can you
I am a little bit.
Ask now somebody to give the correct answer.
I'm a little bit surprised. Whoever picks number 2 has a chance to give what they think, and they can say if they think it should be above Cofield. Who's picking number 2?
John's going to go 2.
John. So he's so smart.
I
He
know.
wanted to say it's really going to be
Bledsoe
who.
County. Bledsoe County.
Oh, that's not right.
Here, let me tell you something.
That's terrible, John L. I wouldn't have went
I'm
2.
sorry about the penmanship.
Yeah, you want me to do it?
I'm just going to say nobody asked, but
Bledsoe
I
County.
agree with John Strunk that is the toughest team on the schedule.
Okay, sure.
Who picks next?
You're a loser too.
Bo goes next.
Bo.
Ooh. Man, I was hoping I was going to get to go after Kevin because then I
Who
knew
are
one
you,
of them
who
was
are you
going to be
wavering
gone.
between?
I am honestly wavering right now between York and Eagleton because I really think with what Eagleton has coming back, that could be a scary, scary club.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm going with Eagleton. I really am.
Oh, wow.
York without a quarterback and without 4 starting
bet they've
offensive
got one.
linemen, but without 4 starting offensive
got
linemen
that
coming
one
back,
guy.
one guy can't make an entire offensive line.
I can't wait to watch this at the end of the year.
When we do this next year, can we each have a column and we pick the order?
That'd be
I
great.
don't know. I just thought of this right when I got here. So, all right, Kevin. I don't think this is too hard.
I gave
Let's
you
see.
one, Kevin. No, I'm not going that route.
You're not going with York?
I'm going with Polk County as next one.
Ah, good pick.
It is a good pick.
Yeah, until this plays. Does this play in Jamestown? You talk about Wartburg having Oneida's football team up in their locker room. Let me step out of the picture. This is going to be the picture in the locker room at York. Who's next? Ben, I guess we're back to Mark, right? Mark, you had Coalfield. Bledsoe, Eagleton, and Polk are all gone.
Bledsoe, Eagleton, and Polk are all gone. I'm going to go with Rockwood. Yeah.
I mean,
Does he understand?
No, I don't think he did on that.
Can you
one.
turn that around and let him see?
Oh, is
what-
York still on
Yeah,
the thing?
York's still on
Oh,
it.
hey, mark that out. Take that away. I'm going with York. I thought York had already been picked.
Mel
Okay,
Mark
York.
alone is going to be on the Rockwood board.
Well, the next obvious one, John L.
Now,
Or
John
both.
L., do you agree with
John L. is
him?
the
Or
next one.
Okay, John L.
Yeah. I think we're going to go Rockwood right there.
Yeah, thanks. You're
Rockwood.
welcome for giving you that answer.
Bo is next up. What is the next toughest game after Coalfield, Bledsoe, Eagleton, Polk, York, and Rockwood?
Probably going to have to go with. Probably going to have to go Kings Academy. That trip over to Kings Academy could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to put TKA.
That's fine.
I mean, none of my letters are really legible anyway, so. Now, the Kings Academy is next. So that leaves you choosing from, if I remember correctly, we've got Wartburg, Greenback, and Tellico remaining.
Wartburg.
Kevin says Wartburg. All right. Wartburg is there. So it's
I love how he
Tellico
tries- I love how he
Plains
tries
or
to
Kings
whisper it because of
Academy.
microphone.
Kings
I'm
Academy.
sorry. Tellico
Greenback.
Plains or Greenback.
GB.
You've got Greenback?
Cherokees. Yes.
We'll move it over to the side here.
L.
I get to pick them.
Who you gonna
last one
pick?
remaining? I mean,
Don't miss it.
yeah,
Tellico.
he's got it.
John, Tellico.
I guess that would be Tellico Plains. Comes in as the most likely team for Oneida to get a win against. All right, that's what you all are saying. So you've got home games against Tellico Plains. You've got home games against Eagleton, Bledsoe County, and Polk County. Thank you. All right. So that's the panel's discussion there. So you can decide at home. You can play along, and then at the end of the year, we'll just see how smart these guys are. And that's why I didn't pick, because I can't be blamed for it. So we will be back with a talk with Coach Jimmy May about the 2024 season when we return right after this.
If you're a DIYer, Lumber King is your supplier. Equipment and tools? We got it. Paint and cleaning supplies? We got it. Rugged apparel and lawn care? We got that too. Visit us at 20359 Alberta Street in Oneida, Tennessee to make all your DIY dreams come true.
Danny's Drugs has been dedicated to providing patients with quality healthcare services since 1966. From our beginnings as a fountain drugstore to our current location on the 4 lane in Oneida, one thing has remained the same: exceptional service. Our staff of highly motivated and carefully trained professionals understand your needs and respond to them in a personal and friendly manner. Our staff works together as a team to provide the finest patient care available. That's Danny's Drugs, putting patients first since 1966.
Forget the bucket, stop buying those expensive car care products. For a supreme clean, visit TNT Car Wash in Oneida. TNT Car Wash features the latest in automatic car wash technology. Our wash bays offer friction or touchless options that are tough on road grime, but gentle on your car's finish. These feature-packed automatics give you complete control of the wash. Want to wash it yourself? TNT also has traditional wash bays. And don't forget the interior, both vacuum and shampoo stations available. For a dynamite clean, TNT Car Wash Oneida.
Tommy's Motorsports is East Tennessee's premier power sports dealership. We're a full-service dealership offering sales, parts, and service with 2 locations to serve you. In Clinton, you'll find Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha, Wave Runner, Polaris, Slingshot, and Homestead trailers. In Crossville, you'll find Honda, Polaris, Can-Am, Sea-Doo, Bad Boy, Roxor, and Yamaha. Come in today and see why Tommy's Motorsports has developed the highest reputation for quality and customer service.
Welcome back to the Oneida 2024 season preview. Just want to show you this. This is actually the Oneida Indian basketball. You can see it's the Sylvia Billingsley collection. Miss Billingsley shared some of her tapes that were going to break down eventually, but what she's done is hand those off to Greg Bond, and Greg has digitally preserved those. And we're putting out a call. Anybody that has some of this, you can see some of the pictures on that. That's the old Oneida gym on the top of that. And there are several games from 93 and 94 of Oneida basketball within this collection. We have several other games right now on sfn.tv where you can go search for the year and look at the different games. And that's got a $5 a month charge on that. And then Kevin, if you will take that and kind of just show, if you want to donate some tapes that are going to break down anyway, again, what we will do is we will convert them to DVD, and you will get free of charge these DVDs so that they're preserved in much better fashion. They're labeled, and you'll be able to enjoy them that way. So we're going to be returning these to Sylvia, and we thank her for the collection. Sharon Keaton has added in some for Scott High, but we need some more Scott High. We need any historical tapes that we can get. We'd like to bring those out so everybody can see those and enjoy them. So just wanted to throw that out there, and eventually you may be able to purchase these DVDs in a separate. If you just said I wanted to watch the 1992-93 Oneida basketball season, then that would be something that's going to be available in the future. So we just want to mention that to you. You can watch these games right now if you go to Channel 190 on Highland Media or YouTube and search SFN Channel 190. You just can't pick what game is going to play. They're playing at random right now. This will give you kind of the on-demand ability to do that if you go sign up at sfn.tv. So the reason I bring that up, these old games, is because I've got these old players around me here, and some of them even played together. And there was videotape when they played. But Coach Jimmy May has joined us now. Coach, we've been doing a season preview and talking about the 2024 season coming up. And I've got a few questions written down, and these guys I'm sure have some questions as well. It's going to be season number 90 of Oneida football. And I looked at it. Your dad began coaching in 1981 at Oneida. I believe that's right. That's season 47. So there's been 90 seasons, and Coach Jim May, Sr., started in season number 47. So we're about to get to a point where more than half of all of Oneida football seasons involved the May name in there somewhere, whether it was you playing, your dad coaching, Richard playing, or you coming back into coaching. That's a lot of Oneida football running through the family's blood right there.
It is. I didn't realize that. I knew it was pretty high up there on the years. I didn't realize it was Team 90, but that's a long time.
It is. And talking about numbers, I'm leading off. This is not really a football question, but it kind of is too. The most important number I'm going to ask you about, TSSAA is checking enrollment this fall, and they're going to organize where you're going to be, whether it's single A, double A, or whatever. For 4 years, they're going to classify that. You can appeal, obviously, if you have a drop or something. Right. Have you got any idea about what the numbers are looking like coming into this fall?
They're a lot lower than they were the last time. I know that. I mean, I think we were 415, I think, and we're way down in the 300s. I don't know exactly, you know.
What's the cutoff?
You don't know.
Don't know yet.
Everybody may be down, right, with homeschooling.
You know, in basketball, it'll take the bottom fourth, and football will take the bottom six. So, I mean, I think everybody's losing students because of homeschooling and Penn Foster and things like that, but you just never know. I mean, I would probably say that basketball and baseball and softball is going to be single A based on the last time the numbers came out. If it holds true, you know, then I don't know about football. I mean, you don't know where it's going to fall. We've kind of been always a small double A, and you just never know how many teams are going to, if anybody gained any. But, you know, most schools I know have lost through the years, so it'll be interesting. Because it'll be, like you said, it'll be for 4 years. So.
Yeah. Well, that was my first question, but then I do want to thank you for coming and talking to us. I know you're coming straight from practice, and you've got about 11 days before the first game. And this year, last year we had the 6 home games and the 4 on the road. This year only 4 home games. You're going to start off on the road, and you're going to start off at Rockwood. Can you just tell us right now, after having been through spring practice and right now, what do you feel like is the biggest positive you have seen in your team that you feel like, boy, this is the thing that's closest to being ready to go against Rockwood?
Well, I mean, you know, you never know till you get after that first game. I mean, the experience factor has been big for us. We have a lot of guys coming back on defense, especially that's played, and it's just a matter of getting everybody on the same page and getting ready. You know, I think on the offensive side of the ball, we're running the ball better than we did at this time last year because we're older. We still have some work to do in places, but, you know, we're going to be breaking in a new quarterback with Gabe Brennan and Brock Ryan, one of those two, or both of them going to be playing. So, you know, we had Caden Rector for 3 years. But the biggest thing probably is the offensive line. All of them's coming back but one. And on that side, and that's the biggest key, I think, on the football team, those 5 linemen up front working together and being together. And that's probably going to be a strength. They just got to continue to work. We're not where I want to be yet. You know, I don't think anybody wants to be at anyone in the first game. Everybody's always got questions, but, you know, I think that's probably a key right now is on that offensive defensive line, and then we're turning a lot of guys around them, and got some new guys, some new faces, but that's where we're concentrating right now is strengthening up right there in the depth. And
not trying to scout for somebody else, but also, I mean, there's things that you have to be concerned? Is this going to be ready to go day one? Is there an area that you feel like there's going to be more intense work on in these next few days?
Well, I mean, we've been working on teams this summer and in fall practice, certain things, schemes they do. And, we've been really concentrating on Rockwood, of course, because that's our first game. Then we'll get ready for their scrimmage Friday, the next couple of days. But we're just, I guess just the competition, competing and going every day, going hard every play, and teaching the young kids you can't take plays off. So we're really getting after them about things like that. And special teams, I really want to work on special teams. I feel like we need to, be better in the kick return area, punt return, like we have been in the past. We have our kicker coming back, Justin Lynch. We have a new punter. It's probably going to be Justin at the moment. He's going to have to do double duty. Those things we really, we worked on today hard and live too, trying to get ready for the ball game. But that's just areas that I think I've been concentrating on, because that's part of the game that you don't see in a scrimmage and you don't count on, but you can win or lose on those special teams very quickly.
I know last year, health-wise, the whole season took a hit when T.J. Meredith wasn't able to participate in the season. You were counting on him to be a big factor on both sides of the ball. How's the health going in right now?
Right now, it's good. Unfortunately, you said T.J. missed his whole senior season. It was running back by committee, and they were the freshmen and sophomores. Besides Caleb Reagan, and Caleb had off-season surgery. I don't know if you know that, on his shoulder. He just now gotten cleared 2 or 3 weeks ago to come back. Aiden Frazier's out right now for a few weeks, but everybody else is, I think, is healthy for the season. We've had some people come back. Brock Ryan missed all last year because of a broken bone in his shoulder, got injured in the spring, and he's back. Of course, Gabe was even hurt in the off-season with a broken leg for a while. So everybody's back healthy now, and that's good, trying to get them into the first game healthy. Xander was banged up a little bit last year with his shoulder, but they all seem right now they're ready to go. So I just got to try to keep them healthy getting into next week.
And we'll give these guys a chance, Mark.
Me and you talked a couple of weeks ago about offense, and you was telling me that it was 5 wide, throw it all over the field, probably 60 passes a game. Is that simple? You act like I'm not telling the truth.
You're not. People know you.
No, but we had actually talked about that, and you said we're going to get behind that big old offensive line. You got 4 starters back, isn't that correct?
Yes.
So I guess going into the season, it's back to Oneida football, or we seen it kind of go.
Well, we're still going to throw the ball, but we're going to, last year we were young up there, and we struggled running the ball. And, when Caden was able to run it and throw it, we depend on him quite a bit. But we are, we've been throwing the ball quite a bit this summer, trying to. But you got to throw it some, and just getting 2 new quarterbacks ready to go for game action. They're making progress. They're both working hard at it. But yeah, we're going to try to lean on them and try to run the ball more, I hope. And because we got a stable of running backs, you got Jesse Zachary, you got Xander Lyles, a sophomore, you got Cole Meredith, who is a sophomore, and then that's the 3 right now. None of them are seniors. Caleb Reagan's come back, but from a shoulder. But we're trying to get him ready for the season. He's the only one that's a senior. All the rest of them are coming back again for another year. So that's we think we've got 3 good running backs back there, and we'll rotate them and keep them fresh.
Ben Gilbert, what's his role on the offense?
He's playing tight end now.
Is he?
I moved him there last year after Riley Gibson had stepped in a little bit. When we lost Austin Thompson, and then Riley ended up getting hurt and having surgery, missed the whole last part of the season. And Ben stepped in, and now with Aiden Frazier being out, it's Ben and Drayton Wade, and Braden Llewellyn's going to be playing some. He's a little banged up right now, but that's where they're going to play. And it's a lot of them because they got to play both ways. Ben does.
Ben is only one of the guys. Jesse Zachary's coming back. Levi James. Riley Gibson, Aiden Frazier, Caleb Reagan. So you've got a good nucleus. It's just that quarterback position that you have to have have it answered.
Yeah, and they don't have to go out and win the game for you. They got to manage the game and just don't lose the game. Mm-hmm. They both have strengths, and Gabe got to play some last year quite a bit. He got some experience. And the biggest thing is experience. Brock missed the whole year, so it's basically sophomore year now. But they've had 2 scrimmages now. They're going to have another one Friday night. You know, we've got the nucleus. We lost 5 kids from last year that played. So they're there, but we were young. Some of them are still young. They're just sophomores. But we've got a good start, and we just hope to keep building on it.
Coach, talking about the quarterback, what's your feel? Are you okay playing 2 quarterbacks in a game? I know Rockwood's going to be your first game. Would you look at that game like a litmus test? It's not a regional game. I know you want to win it, but do you put them both under fire and try to see who comes out in that situation?
I mean, my plan is right now, I mean, to be honest, neither one of them is taking it from the other one. You know, I've been going all summer. They've been rotating plays, every other play, and so I'm going to play them both. I mean, we did that a few years ago. We played Jacob Lambert and Kevin Sammons, all the way through, and had a pretty good year. And as long as they're both doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I guess it gets down to maybe who has the hot hand that night. I mean, a lot of people say you don't want to play 2 quarterbacks, but you play 2 people at other positions. I know, but they're in there enough. I don't think it really matters to the other kids in the huddle who's in there. I've not heard anybody say, "Hey, I want this one, I want that one," because I make them. They have to play with everybody, and you never know who's going to get hurt one night, unfortunately, or maybe have their helmet come off at the 4th down. Somebody else has got to go in there, and at least they've both been playing. But I mean, I will reward both of them. They've worked at it. They've come to practice every day, and I tell them they got to take coaching because I coach them harder than anybody else. Because if they're not going, if they're having trouble, then the team, they got to settle the team down. Because that was good about Caden. I could coach Caden hard, and he could tell them what was going on, what needed to be done, and be a leader. And that's what I'm trying to do with these 2.
And I think you hit on it a little bit. Manager of the game doesn't really have. You had a quarterback last year that could take over. I mean, he really could, and he could scramble with the best of them and make plays down the field and with his legs. Being that you have that offensive line in front of these 2 guys, it kind of makes that decision a little easier, doesn't it? You got a lot of returning line.
That's the thing. I mean, Caden was faster than Brock and Gabe. He make plays with his legs. Okay. They've been working on the 7-on-7, and they've been in there now. Because when you get into scrimmaging nights into, real football, you got pass rush, and you got to get out of there, and they're going to get hit. And the other night, I thought, they took some licks the other night, but they need to get hit and see what it's going to be like and take care of the ball and manage the game. It's, like I said, it's a work in progress. I mean, I don't know how it's going to turn out. I mean, hopefully they both stay injury-free, but, we just got to go with what we got right now. And right now, our system is those 2 at the same, playing, and we'll take it as far as we can.
Of course, everybody follows Oneida football knows you're the head coach, and you also call the offensive plays. So everybody's pretty much talking to you about offense, but I want to talk to you about defense. Mark Martin's your defensive coordinator. Tell us about going in this year, some things defensively that maybe you've seen improvements on, some things maybe you want to try to work on a little bit more.
Well, we're going to have at least 2 new secondary people because the 2 kids we lost on defense were corners with Landon Lindbergh and Josh Cole. And, you've got people in the secondary. Of course, it starts back there with Levi James, it made All-State. Just, a tremendous player and over 90 tackles from his safety position. And he's picked up this season right where he left off, being aggressive, filling the alley. And Tanner Buckstrom started too. Now you've got people in there now. You've got Waylon Hill coming along, a sophomore, and William Hill, his twin brother, is another sophomore. You got Grady Keaton in the mix. You got Eli Sexton's going to be starting one of the safeties more like, depending on what kind of defense we're in, which one of those is starting. But he's gained a lot of reps this summer. And you got A.J. Harper and Ruger West trying to gain footing, and we've been playing them, you got to get them experience because, like I said, you never know what's going to happen. Hopefully nothing's. But I think back there, then you got your 2 linebackers back, and you got all your front 4 back. I mean, Will King's the only one up front that rotate in. They're all coming back, with Brady Burke up front and Cam Cash. I think it starts there. Then with the ends, you've got Jesse Zachary. When you had Aiden Frazier, it both started there, but now you got people like Drayton Wade. You got Will Jeffers, who played tremendous, I thought, the other night. You got Braden Llewellyn, Xander Lau can play rover, he can play inside linebacker, Cole Meredith the same way. Then you got trying to work Caleb Reagan back in at rover, getting back. So we've got some depth, which is, last year we didn't have at some places. And, hopefully that'll pay off in the long run. But I think, Mark's done a good job with them, getting them organized and playing to our strengths, what we want to do. And I think we'll be ready and just, we just want to be aggressive on that side of the ball again, get pressure on the quarterback and, play downhill. Let the linebackers play downhill on the run, like being in Braden Birchfield in there, coming back from last year, both of those. So I think we're going to be okay on that side.
Yeah.
One of the things we're going to look at this season is 30 years ago, that 94 team. And thinking about them, they had a couple of freshmen coming in, Dustin Posey and Dustin Phillips, that were going to be big contributors on the line. Do you have any freshmen this year that are ready to go, ready to play, or that might work their way into the mix at some point during the season?
Well, right now, Brylan Strunk on the offensive defensive line's learning. He's come along. He's a freshman, of course, but he's learning and wants to learn. He wants to be good. And so, he'll run into some times he'll get blocked. He'll be a 14, 15-year-old against an 18-year-old, but he'll learn from it and make him better. He's probably at the top of the list right now about who's going to come and off that group. Now, there's going to be some others. Of course, they're going to progress at different rates. We've got a couple that's just joined the team, so I'm anxious to see what they can do. But I'm looking forward to see what he'll do.
Yep. What about the mix of games that only having the 4 home games? In the end, does that matter too much for you as far as the results? I mean, obviously Rockwood, you beat Rockwood. We'll talk about that. That was the first game. You got them at home, got up big on them at home. But when you go play Rockwood down on their field, things feel a lot different.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things we talked about at the end of practice today. I always talk to them. Last time we down there, if you remember, we had the ball on the 1 yard line, couldn't stick it in. Actually, it scored and got a penalty. I said in the whole game, and I think our whole season changed when we couldn't score because they drove it 99 yards, and it took the wind out of our sails, and we never were the same.
Yeah.
And in a game that we were moving the ball pretty well, and we had gotten a stop. I think we'd blocked a punt and drove down through there and drove down in there and scored and got it called back. But I don't like having 4 home games. I didn't want 6. I wanted 5 and 5, but I couldn't get it worked out. And that's just how it's going to be. I mean, we have to go to, because I think about the region more than I do the other games. You got to go to York and got to go to Wartburg and all the rest of them in the region at home. But I mean, anybody want to have more home games, because most people play better at home. And I think, but we're just going to have to start off with Rockwood and Cofield. That's not an easy task for anybody. Right. Two places that's traditionally tough and hard for us to play, and it's just what the hand we've been dealt. We just have to deal with it.
You made mention of the cornerback positions, very crucial on the defense, and that's the 2 that you got to replace. Who's settling in back there? Probably got multiple guys that are.
Yeah, we've moved Tanner Buttram over there from his safety position, and Eli Sexton has stepped in at safety for him some. Grady Keaton's playing some there. Waylon Hill, William Hill, they can interchange. One of them's playing Rover too. When we need them, they're just athletic. They just need experience. They're young, and you got Rigger West is playing at corner. AJ Harper's back at safety. And people like Grady can play both. I like to train them to play both because you want to put your best guys on the field no matter what. You can work them in position instead of saying, hey, I need this. But they're going. I think we got a lot of experience back there. Like you said, only losing 2. I mean, Landon Lindbergh was a 3-time All-Region. That's a big loss. But we're coming on, and hopefully we'll they'll keep battling and keep getting better every week.
I'm going to reveal to you, you may not get a chance to watch this season preview, but we did a power rankings type game, and I'm just going to tell you. So I know. One thing I definitely remember about your dad, and I will say Lou Holtz is the same way. Whoever you're playing that week, you're getting ready to play the Dallas Cowboys. This is going to be, poor mouthing is what the term is, and I know you do the same thing. And I am going to tell you that in this season ranking, power ranking thing, we picked who's the toughest team you're going to play, and we started going down the list. And can I tell you who came in at number 5? And I just want to get your thoughts on that. The number 5 team, and I think this is just showing respect for your schedule, okay? But these guys, look at these 4. had the number 5 team on 5th best team on your schedule as the York Dragons that were semifinalists a year ago. Now,
And the year before that.
and the year before that. So, you know, is the schedule that tough that could actually be argued?
Probably.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Tell him who the number 1 team was.
Well, so they had Coalfield at number 1. They
Good pick.
had Bledsoe County at 2. I mean, I think Bledsoe County. I mean, so they
If
lost
you go
a
by
running
the
back,
region,
right?
if you go by their region, our region teams, Bledsoe
There's a great
has
argument.
got most has
Yeah.
got most of their guys back.
Right.
I mean, he was mostly juniors. He had a running back that's going to be a sophomore. He was a freshman last year against us, and I mean he's loaded. I mean that's the team that everybody's looking at in the region. You know.
I think so. I think that's
and Coalfield,
warranted. I
Bledsoe and
would've picked them
Coalfield,
more.
yes, both of them up there at the top, yes.
And then I think the surprise we had next was Polk County. Is that right? Was that what we had? No,
And
no, I'm
Eagleton.
sorry. No,
Eagleton.
Eagleton was 3rd. And, you know, Eagleton has basically come from scratch to making the playoffs last year, and then, you know, they carried some momentum school-wide into basketball and ended our basketball season. It's a school that's definitely on the rise. They return everybody, and they got some people in.
Yeah, they're going to be a force to reckon with. I mean, they're not in our region or anything, but I mean, he's got all his team back, and I told him, I said last year, I said, I guess we'll play this game again because I'm only losing 5, you're not losing any, so it's going to be the same kids playing against each other. But yeah, they're a good team, and we actually set up a JV game with him today, and he's done a good job with them. I mean, they took it. I think they lost to South Green on a 2-point conversion. They lost by 1 and was a yard away from getting it, and really got. It was really improved by the end of the year, and they've got it going on over there. It's a nice place, and they do a good job with them.
I think it was Polk County that was next. I mean, that was a. If you're, I think I said in the preview, if you're not a fan of either one of the teams, what a great game to just watch. Your game with Polk County last year, as far as like thrilling moments, you're down 2 scores.
Wasn't for him.
No, I know it wasn't for him because he's a fan of one of the teams. But for the casual observer, I mean,
yes, sir.
You're down 2 scores. You get those 2 scores, and then they drive down, and you have to get a goal line stop. I mean, for somebody that loves to watch football, that was a great game.
Yeah, it was.
And that's who they have it for.
Yeah, that was an exciting game. We did enough to come back and had to get a stop. Then went down and scored. Had to get a 4th down stop. Had to go down and score again on a 3rd and long, I think. We think we scored 2 touchdowns on the same play that night. We threw to 2 different receivers. And then we let them out. Could have tackled them at midfield up there inbounds with no timeouts, and they get it out of bounds and somehow get to run 3 plays in 9 seconds. And, I think had a snap. It kind of went when we were able to make the tackle, but that was, that just showed the kids never quit that night and just battled, and we got dominated probably on the time of possession and everything, but was able to get a win in a tough place that we'd never been before. When you've never been to that place to play and you go down there and win, I think that's big.
You see those ESPN meters where if Oneida winning is up here, that meter was hovering down here late in the game, and then it just shot up there at the end, and the Indians get the win. But it's going to be different now. You don't have that senior leader. That's going to be a tough game to come back and get when you don't have Caden Rector as quarterback.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's just where the rest of them is going to step up, and I think that's where you're going to get Levi James to step up. And he's been a leader in practice, and Cam Cash on the offensive line. They're being leaders because they played the most, and I'm just glad to see them step into that role, because not all your seniors have gotten to play a lot. They've not all got the experience, but those guys have played a lot of football, and we're leaning on them quite heavily.
Y'all got any more questions? I am going to ask you. So last year, I believe it was it Eli Sexton?
Eli Jordan Sexton.
Eli Jordan Sexton. Yeah. That by the end of the year, I knew exactly who he was. Coming into the year, I didn't know, and he just came seemingly from out of nowhere. Ben Gilbert, similar. I mean, I knew who Ben was, but I didn't know he was going to be that. Is there somebody this year that you think is going to surprise us?
Well, that's a hard one.
It is a tough one. I mean,
Eli Jordan ended up having to play because we needed defensive linemen.
Right.
I tell the coaches, I said, you just got to put them in there and see what they can do. You never know, you might find somebody. Ben came out of you said nowhere, but I'd seen him. He studies film so
Yeah.
hard, and he prepared. Now he wasn't always right. I mean, he got blocked some, but that Polk County I think was his coming out game. He had so many tackles, and he just goes so hard and plays so hard, and he does what he's supposed to do, and he's where he needs to be. To come out, I think maybe. You're gonna get what you expect out of Levi. You know what he's gonna play hard every play, and he's gonna go 100 miles an hour on both sides of the ball. I think, you got Eli Sexton on offense, number 15 receiver. I thought him after the first scrimmage he blocked. He's made so much improvement. He was the best blocker, that receiver that night, and I think you're gonna see a lot out of Grady Keaton too. His first year playing, he's so athletic, and
throw it up.
That's what I've heard. Just throw him the ball and get it to him, and he's going to make plays, and he's just now getting back into football where he's not played for 2 years. Those 3 running backs, I think, are going to, take a step forward. They're going to be able to rest each other. But just to pick somebody, I don't know if you're trying to think of somebody, the one that you might say is Drayton Wade. Had never, he's not played as a freshman.
He's a sophomore.
He's a sophomore, going to be a tight end, just learning what to do. And I think, this is he's going to have a good, bright future for us down the road, just learning what to do. And he wants to be good. He wants to learn. So I think that's just kind of a few that come to mind right there of who's going to stand out.
Maybe a question, a little step back question here, but as I looked at the roster, and you mentioned a couple of freshmen that had came out, there was a question about freshmen that maybe had stood out. And as I went through the roster, you got 11 seniors, 12 juniors, 15 sophomores, 8 freshmen. Is to get kids to come out into football now, is it a little tougher? I mean, only 8 freshmen, that's a little scary.
Yeah, it can be scary. Well, I think you have to look at the class too, and what I tend to look at is how many were in the class above them and how many's in the class below them. If you get 2 classes of 5 or 6 each, then that could, down the road, that could be hurtful. But like you said, how many sophomores? 15? And you're going to have probably 12 or so, I think, at least next year. So that's 2 good classes surrounding them. So I think you can overcome that. I know one year, I think when Jonathan King was a senior, we had 4.
Yeah.
For a while. But we had big classes on both sides of them, so that kind of helps out. It's just different. Some kids may be waiting to their sophomore year. I mean, we picked up one. I'd heard we may pick up another one. That 8th and 9th grade year is challenging, I think, because they're lifting when they can lift, but they can't practice. They can't practice with the middle school. They can't practice with the high school. They're kind of in limbo until school's out, and just getting them out there. If I can just get them out there and get them part of the team, I think they'd enjoy it. I tell them, I said, I don't ask everybody to play. I mean, I think you can play and help us. I want you out there. And, just because they didn't play this year, next year I might get 3 of them that want to come out, and I want to get them out there. I know they missed a year, but you always want to give people a chance to get in your program because you never know when you're going to need them,
Absolutely.
You never know what you're going to turn into, especially some of them have never played. I said, it's okay. It's all right. You never know what you're going to turn into. Let's just go see how you practice. And but I worry that the number's a little low. I wish it was about 12 every year at the minimum. That gives you 48 at least. We got 47 right now, but they work hard and I'm proud of them. And we'll coach the ones that are out there, and we'll keep working. And if we got people that want to join us, and we'd be glad to have them.
I'm going to tell you somebody I think is going to step up this year.
Okay.
Not from your team, from our team. John L., this is going to be a big year for him because we've got 6 road trips, and instead of rolling in 5 minutes before the game starts, he's going to have to ride with us, and so he's going to actually know some things about who we're playing, and Mark's going to tell him, Mark's going to give him information on their strengths and their weaknesses. So I feel like John L. is going to surge this year.
Yeah, he'll have to step up a lot.
It's going to be a big year for you. I'm trying to compliment.
Yeah, it's been like that for the last 20 years, 20 plus years.
Coach, we appreciate you sitting through with us. I just want to say this: if you could say, if this happens, we're going to have a good year. Is there 1 or 2 things? If this can happen, then you're going to see a really good year for the Oneida Indians?
I think we got to stay healthy. You know, we can't have a lot of injuries because, you know, I think if the quarterbacks play like I think they're going to play, you know, with the mindset that the other guys have and our offensive line, I think we have a chance. I mean, you know, in the region, I think we'd have a chance because I think you got to look at Bledsoe and York as being the top two because of the past last year. They were both, you know, they both beat us. But then, you know, you've got Polk County and Wartburg and Tellico right there getting better every year too. None of them had many seniors. I know Polk brings their quarterback back. They did lose some kids, but they, you know, they got some linemen coming back. And but I think if we can stay healthy and quarterbacks can gain confidence, I think that you know we'll have a chance to be successful.
Want any revenge? You got anything finally you want to say?
No, you're probably right.
Well, listen, you're welcome to come to practice anytime you want to come and watch. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, come down there and watch us, and
You all could go. I've been there, but you all. No.
Real quick word on your coaching staff this year, structure of coaching staff, and what that's looking like.
It's the same ones we had last year. You know, with Mark Martin doing the defense and Sean West doing the defensive line, tight ends, and helping Mark there, and Josh Terry and Brian Hamby are doing the defensive backs. Of course, Brian's doing the running backs on offense, and Josh the receivers, and I coach the quarterbacks. And you got Creighton, my nephew's helping. He's doing the defensive ends. And I told him, I said, "You got it made." And he goes, "Well," I said, "I gave you the most experienced group on the team, you know." I mean, he does a good job with them, though, but he helps on the offensive line, and Stephen Burse is doing the offensive and defensive lines also. And then Chad McDowell does the linebackers. He signals our plays in for us. And then, you know, Mike Keaton is he's just the head of football operations.
Don't say what he is.
So,
not on the air.
But, you know, we couldn't function without him. When he's not there, it's hard for us. But he does everything for us, gets everything set up, you know, and headsets and all that. And he does a great job. We'd be lost without him. I know that. They'd get by without me, but they'd be lost without him. But yeah, they do a great job, and they're up there working every day. And, you know, we're just hopefully we'll be okay and be ready to roll into Rockwood next week and see what we can do.
Anything special for the Rockwood game that you want to whisper to me?
Like what?
Well, I don't know. You're going to let me call the first play. We've been talking about that.
What do you want to call?
Well, it doesn't matter what I want to call.
Well, I got to know ahead of time, so we have to practice.
If he wins the coin toss, then it's going to be kickoff.
Kickoff cover. I can call that kickoff.
Yeah. Prefer.
Oh, yeah. That's true. I've only been doing this a few years. All right, Coach, thank you for joining us. We look forward to it. We always look forward to it. It'll be Friday night, August 23rd at Rockwood. The Oneida Indians open up the 2024 season against the Rockwood Tigers. Coach Jimmy May joins us. We want to remind you, sfn.tv, past games, go in there and check it out. And if you've got past games, whether it's Scott High, Oneida, Winfield, Birchfield, I mean, there's middle school games on there, there's soccer games, there's beauty pageants on there. Kevin,
you got some
beauty pageants. So, you know, there's all kinds of things to choose from on there. Go check out sfn.tv. So for all those involved, Kevin Akers, Mark Matthews, we thank Coach Jimmy May, John Strunk. This is Tim Smith saying thanks for joining us. And don't forget, Bo Kidd was with us. And the man who made all of it happen is Greg Vaughn behind the controls. And we thank you for joining us for the Oneida 2024 season preview, and we'll see you at kickoff.